This is bad. This is bad.
Murder, sacrifice and phantoms await the most haunted team on the Isle of Wight. Hello and welcome to Most Haunted. 800 years of history stand on today's site, but so too do dark ghostly figures, along with disembodied voices and sudden temperature changes. With all this in mind, I had to bring you to Appuldurcombe House. Nestled away near to the southeast corner of the island, Appuldurcombe is a solemn and stark reminder of former glories. A house has stood here since 1200, with this current property now 300 years old. However, time hasn't stood it in good stead. Despite housing the same family for 3 centuries, a series of misfortunes have recently beset this home. Hoteliers, scholars, monks, even army troops have all used Appuldurcombe since 1855. But the damage inflicted by a 1943 German bomb has long since rendered this building an ancient and apparently haunted ruin.
This, at one time, was the finest house on the whole of the Isle of Wight. And Henry VIII actually stayed here. In fact, the Worsley family, who lived here for the best part of 300 years, James Worsley was actually no less than a whipping boy for Henry VIII. That is someone who took any punishments that the king should have had. He was actually a page boy, and King Henry VIII made him Sir James Worsley. And from then on, the family had a title.
My affiliation with Appuldurcombe House is that my family own the house and the estate, which runs to 300 acres, and it's an historic park designed by Capability Brown, and the house, designed by John James, was built in 1701 until 1713.
A troubled phantom has been seen running up and down these stairs, brushing past unsuspecting guests, and a ghostly candle has been seen flickering in the middle of the night.
In 1805, this house was left. It became a hotel in 1855, which didn't work. In 1867, it became an academy for gentlemen. And then in 1909, it was occupied by the army, and also in the Second World War. And now all we see is nothing but a sad, forlorn ruin with ghosts.
Down here in the claustrophobic cellars, dark shadows move from side to side, and people often feel that they're being watched.
My paranormal experiences have been a couple, actually. The first one I had was when I was about 25, and I was working. We used to have a dairy herd of cows on the farm, and I was working with the cows, and at about 11:30 at night I had to go out and check the dairy cows to see when they were calving. And I went out onto this really eerie night, and there was mist sort of floating across the fields, and you could hardly see the grass, and it was as still and as quiet as anything, and I could definitely hear people talking, but there was no one about apart from the cows. It was absolutely quiet, and there's just heard these 2 voices, and I'm sure there was somebody around, but I couldn't see anyone anywhere.
There's an interesting story of 2 boys in 1567 that were actually blown up by gunpowder near the gatehouse. Their ghosts are actually heard screaming in the house that now occupies the site of the gatehouse.
Amazingly enough, everyone who comes to the house itself always says that if you have a feeling of joy, a feeling of happiness, not one of sadness, but a feeling of happiness from the house, and if they feel like they are in contact with any spirits or any paranormal experiences, they think that they're happy spirits, not sad or unhappy ones.
This used to be the main entrance to the building, and it's said that a ghostly carriage draws up in pitch darkness pulled by pale horses. Many people have also heard the laughter of a young boy echoing in the dead of night.
Another interesting story, which I've only read recently, is that A monk has been seen wandering across the front lawn, obviously wearing a grey habit, but also carrying a wooden staff in his hand with a lantern on the end of it. Now, from 1200, we believe there was some form of monastic building here, but in 1901, the Benedictine monks from Cor Abbey actually moved here and occupied this building while the abbey was being rebuilt. So whether some misdeeds went on while they were here, perhaps David, perhaps Derek will find out later for us.
Parapsychologist Kieran O'Keefe has already made his way across the Solent and already has a keen eye on the contributory factors that this predominantly exposed environment holds.
Now, I should imagine at Appuldurcombe it's going to be really difficult to conduct an investigation.
It is going to be a very, very difficult location to investigate because part of it, there is no roof. It's very, very open to the environment, to the wind, to the temperature. So it will be very, very difficult to investigate, yeah.
For me, this is really interesting because the hall is like a blank canvas. There's nothing here whatsoever to suggest the people that once lived here, what it used to be. So that'd be quite interesting as well, to see if we actually walk in and go, well, there's nothing here, therefore we're going to feel nothing.
Definitely, yeah. From the exterior, there might be some sort of clue as to the period in history that we're looking at, but certainly with the interior, you're right, there's no visual prompts at all that would give anybody on the team any clue to historically what they should be expecting to experience. There are some clues in some of the other rooms where they actually give you information about the room, but Alex has already been around and covered up those to make sure that nobody is influenced by the information there.
What are you looking forward to tonight? Is there any particular place that you would like to spend some time in?
I'm looking forward to being down in the cellar because one area of specialty for me is this idea of infrasound, and I think we may be looking at a source of infrasound down there. In addition to that, just being in every room here, I think will be fascinating just because the number of shadows that the light, as it changes over the course of the investigation, will throw up.
Well, apart from being frozen to death, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be great.
So our Baroque-style abode has plenty to offer this most haunted investigation. And with both spiritualist mediums Derek Okora and David Wells having now arrived on the Isle of Wight, we could begin to sample the apparent afterlife at Appuldurcombe House.
All I can get here is wafting all around me. It's people, busy, women, ladies, well, and you know, and it's the food, the cooking, and the fragrance of food here.
Yeah.
Oh, thick and fast. So I would say in this area here, there would be kitchens or, you know, where food was really wholesome. I can smell bird, I can smell, you know, fowl getting cooked, and also you know, piglet and stuff like that.
What time period?
Oh, in between the times of the 1630 up to the Victorian times. In between that.
Right. Okay.
And also into the Victorian times.
Right, so that's a big, long period that
Absolutely.
these rooms would have been used for?
Yes.
OK, all right.
OK. Do you hear that chant? Do you hear that? It was like two men chanting. Did you hear?
It's a drain pipe.
Oh, was it? OK.
Yeah.
Sorry, it sounded like it to me.
I know what you mean, because you can hear it there. Listen, it'll happen again.
It's the spring on the door.
Spring on the door. It all sounds like a drain.
Ah,
that's
see?
it. Yeah.
See, your ears are just here.
Yeah.
So a homely and domesticated feel to the first of Appuldurcombe's barren rooms. And from there we move through to an area that one might expect to have once played host to such feasts and frivolity. The Great Hall.
Tell me if you feel anything while you stand very close to this symbol. Tell me what your immediate feelings are, Ivy.